Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on KAJ, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Don Fisher. Winter is causing for some difficult driving conditions across the region and much of the state. The snow just keeps falling around northwestern Montana, with much of it under a winter storm warning. And first responders have been scrambling throughout the day, dealing with numerous crashes across the area. And we're just in the beginning of this multi-day snow event, expected to bring possibly dangerous travel conditions into the weekend. For more, let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Aaron Yost, who has a look at our first forecast. Aaron?
Yeah, the time frame that I'm a little concerned about, I shouldn't say a little concerned about, very concerned about, is going to be running into Friday afternoon and early Saturday morning. That's when this radar, if you can imagine, will be even more full than what we're seeing right now. Right now, light to moderate snow falling across a lot of northwest Montana, but there is more where that came from. We've got the cold air in place. Other folks to the south of us, not so much. So that means we should remain snow this entire time, and a lot of it will start to add up. Most of our valley locations in northwest Montana picking up a foot, if not more. Unfortunately, we're dealing with some very gusty winds spilling through the gaps of the Continental Divide. So with those cold temperatures and wind, we could be seeing some dangerously low wind chill values here too the next few mornings. I've got a whole lot more coming up in your full forecast.
All right, thank you, Aaron. And to keep an eye on the latest conditions in western Montana, just download the KAJ Storm Tracker weather app to your mobile device to take forecasts from our Storm Tracker team with you on the go. It's free on the Google Play and App Store. And 2 people taken to the hospital, including a Missoula County Sheriff's Office sergeant, after a crash on Wednesday. Sergeant Gordon Schmill was involved in the crash at mile marker 136 on I-90, and he was parked on the shoulder of the westbound lane with his emergency lights activated, preparing to assist in an unrelated crash when he was rear-ended by an oncoming vehicle.
And was just getting ready to get out of his vehicle to put the flares out when he looked up and he could see that a vehicle was spinning out of control, basically coming right at him in, a microsecond to sort of brace himself, but he was struck pretty firmly from the rear of his vehicle.
Schmill and the motorist were treated for non-life-threatening injuries and expected to make a full recovery. The crash is being investigated by the Montana Highway Patrol, and authorities remind everyone that if you have to drive in these conditions, please slow down. Also, if you see emergency lights illuminated, proceed with extra caution.
And just be aware that you need to move over as far to the left as you can, safely do so, and approach with caution, and just be aware again that something is going on, and to try and be very vigilant, especially this time of the year.
Also, another example today, a motorist crashed into a Missoula County snowplow on the interstate. Frenchtown Rural Fire District says on its Facebook page that the roads have been extra slick, and they ask you to remember that when approaching an emergency scene to slow down and move over and allow these crews to do their work. Whitefish Mountain Resort welcomed Olympian slopestyle skier Maggie Voisin back to her hometown on Thursday for their annual Ski with Maggie event. Voisin is taking a break from the rigorous training schedule leading up to the 2018 Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang, and she says that she hasn't been skiing much while at home, but spent the day with skiers and snowboarders taking laps down Chair 2. The kids spent an hour skiing with 18-year-old Olympian before heading to the Ed and Molly's Bar and Restaurant, where she took photos and signed autographs. Voisin says that the competition is important, but ultimately skiing with little kids on Big Mountain and remembering her childhood is even more special.
As a skier, medals and all that to me are very important, but at the end of the day, I also want to, to be able to inspire the next generation and just a bunch of little skiers, and it's good for me to have a day like this to really remember and see all these kids and get them excited, and it comes from my heart that it means a lot.
And in Sochi 4 years ago, Voisin was set to become the youngest U.S. athlete to compete at the Winter Olympics since 1972, 2 months after turning 15, but she fractured her right fibula in practice on the day of the opening ceremony. Rebecca Farm is a popular place for equestrian events in the summer, but this weekend they will host their first winter event in the form of ski joring. MTN's Jack Ginsburg shows us how crews are getting set up.
Rebecca Farm is a household name here in the Flathead Valley, and they are adding another popular event to their resume this weekend as they will host their first ski joring competition. The event will have 3 divisions: novice for first-timers, sport for intermediate, and open division for the professionals. Lakeside usually does this event, but this year they handed it over to Rebecca Farm, and event director Sarah Broussard says she is ready to finally host it.
It's pretty exciting for us to add something during the winter here at Rebecca Farm. We have a great facility for hosting things like this, and we're very excited to have ski joring as kind of, you can say, a feather in our hat.
Tyler Smedsrud and Richard Weber from Colorado have been setting up the course this week, and they say it will be a straight course with lots of speed, but perfect for any skill level.
The jumps will be big. Open jumps will be 5 to 7 feet. Novice jumps probably 3 to 4 feet. So this track will be a good straight track for anybody to compete in, as well as pros to compete in.
Smedsrud and Weber aren't just the builders of the course, they compete as well. Smedsrud says that there's nothing quite like the ski joring community, and the atmosphere is rather unique.
You got cowboys and you got skiers, so you got kind of a different mix of people to begin with. And so right off the bat, there's good camaraderie that's different than any other sport.
And if you were wondering if you should give it a shot, Weber had this to say.
You don't need a whole lot of experience. I mean, if you can control your horse, or if you're a decent skier, come on out and get in the novice and give it a try. And once you do it once, you're going to be hooked. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Well, as you can see, crews are still hard at work here and the snow is coming down. But come Saturday morning, this entire place will be transformed, as horses will be galloping through the snow and skiers will be flying off the jumps. Reporting here at Rebecca Farm, I'm Jack Ginsburg, MTN News.
And the event will take place both Saturday and Sunday, and there's a total of $25,000 that will be distributed to the winners. Another drug raid is being reported in Polson. Polson Police Sergeant George Simpson says that the Flathead Tribal Police, with help from the Polson Police Department and the Lake County Sheriff's Office, executed a search warrant on a Polson home yesterday afternoon. Law enforcement found marijuana, meth, heroin, LSD, and numerous items of drug paraphernalia in the home. Those inside at the time are charged with multiple felonies, and the CSKT and Montana Child Protective Services also removed juveniles from that home. An engine malfunction forced a private jet to make an emergency landing in Butte this afternoon. Emergency responders were called to the Burt Mooney Airport just after 2 o'clock when the crew of the Gulfstream airplane said one of its engines had malfunctioned and they needed to make an emergency landing. The plane was able to land safely, and the 3 people on board were not injured in the incident.
They were en route from Kalispell to Salt Lake City. They got a warning light indicating that a thrust reverser was having an issue. They shut that one engine down and made an emergency landing here at Burt Mooney Airport.
And the FAA will investigate this incident. And if you deduct more than $10,000 in property and state income taxes on your federal return, that deduction will be capped at that amount next year. That means some taxpayers may want to pay the remainder of their 2017 property taxes by Friday to get the last full deduction. But as MTN's Mike Dennison reports, this change won't affect too many Montanans.
Right now, if you pay local or state property and income taxes, you can deduct the entire amount from your federal taxable income. But under the Republican tax bill passed last week, any deduction for the combined amount of both taxes will be capped at $10,000 starting next year. That change is prompting some to pay the second half of their 2017 property tax bill now, instead of the usual due date in May, so they can take the full deduction this year. Lewis and Clark County Treasurer Paulette DeHart says some taxpayers have even asked if they can pay their 2018 property taxes early to get a bigger deduction this year. But she says those taxes aren't even calculated until next summer, so the answer is no.
At this point in time, we cannot take any 2018 property tax payments.
Yet the average homeowner or taxpayer won't be affected by this change. Statewide, only 2,100 Montanans pay more than $10,000 in property taxes in a year. There's probably at least 10,000 or 20,000 more households whose combined property and state income taxes top $10,000, but it's limited mostly to the top income brackets. DeHart says she's had only a half dozen inquiries so far about the change, and Friday is the final day if paying that second half of your 2017 property tax bill early gets you a bigger deduction.
We've had several people come in and pay the May, but not a big rush, not lines. We'll see what tomorrow brings.
Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
And property tax payments must be paid at the county treasurer's office. And up next, Aaron is back with a snowy forecast headed into the end of the week. And later, cities around the country are bolstering security for New Year's Eve, especially in Times Square. That story's coming up.